The Long Road to True Happiness by WierdRandomTina. Chapter 44. Picking Up the Pieces. Originally, after Poppy confessed all those detailed negative feelings to Branch, she was certain she would have to skip dinner that night. Surely she'd be too nauseous to even look at food, let alone eat it. To her surprise, when Branch set down the small bowl of vegetable soup in front of her, she started eating it right away, and she finished her meal before him this time. She waited for the inevitable ache in her gut of being too full, but it never came. As Branch started to gather the dishes, Poppy quietly asked him, Branch, this is the last of the soup? Nope. There's another container in the fridge for your lunch tomorrow, he answered casually. Then he noticed her expression and blinked in surprise. Or would you like some more now? Yes, please. He abandoned his dishes and instantly stood up, looking like he had received a burst of energy. How much? Poppy studied her small bowl for a second before deciding, maybe half of this? Branch wasted no time in getting the additional portion for her. She ate the soup slowly and with small mouthfuls, wary of aggravating her sensitive stomach. But she managed every last drop, leaving her belly comfortably full. Meanwhile, Branch gazed fondly at his girlfriend the entire time. Seeing her tiniest improvements filled him with so much joy. Although he didn't say it much out loud, Poppy knew he was concerned about her skimpy diet. He used to tease her about eating enough to feed 4 trolls and hogging all the desserts, so seeing that same troll with such a significant lack of appetite and avoiding sweets altogether must be extremely alarming. However, seeing her eat a bit extra would ease some of his worries. He's experienced enough stress in his life. I don't want him to feel bad because of me. But his colours are still bright. Through all of this, the flood rebuilding the village, seeing me grey, I've never once seen his turquoise skin or navy blue hair or sky blue eyes look even a little dull. Branch must have a lot of positivity in his heart now. For a split second, she wondered how. Then it dawned on her. Because of me. He's able to handle stressful situations and keep going strong. Because of me. That night, Poppy also assumed she would either get no sleep for a 3rd night in a row, or she'd fall asleep only to be plagued by nightmares. No way she'd sleep soundly. On the contrary, she shut her eyes just after midnight, and did not open them again until Branch was preparing to leave at 6:50. With his coffee finished and his knapsack packed, Branch stood by her bedside and murmured, "There's a few watermelon slices and a glass of juice for breakfast, a smoothie and some applesauce with a little container of blueberries for lunch, and assorted leftovers on a plate for dinner. I'll be back somewhere between 1 and 1:30. Every morning before he left, if she was awake, Branch would say something along those lines to her. Every morning, she'd respond with a half-hearted or "okay." But this morning she said something else. "Okay, thank you, Branch." His soft smile tugged at her heart. "You're welcome, my love." He leaned over to give her a little kiss on the forehead before asking, "Is there anything I can do for you before I leave?" Out of habit, Poppy said no. But as her boyfriend walked away, she realised there was one thing. She opened her mouth to call him back, but then she hesitated. Nah, he needs to get going. He's already on his way out. It's not important anyway. However, the closer Branch got to the door, the stronger the urge to ask him became. As he reached for the door handle, Poppy sat up and blurted out, "Wait!" Instantly he spun around. Now that she had gotten his attention, her hesitance returned. Could you, can I, Realising it would be easier to show rather than ask, Poppy got out of the bed. Facing Branch, she lifted her arms, holding them out stiffly at her sides. The common gesture was suddenly so foreign to her, and for a few seconds Branch wasn't sure what she was implying. Then he realised. His expression changed completely. Bright blue eyes widened with shock and sparkling with hope. He started to walk toward her, and slowly, she kept her arms wide open. Once he was standing a few paces in front of her, Branch confirmed gently, "Do you want a hug?" When she answered with a shy little nod, his entire face lit up with delight. So he stepped forward, and in one smooth, unhurried motion, he put his arms around her. Poppy guessed he was itching to squeeze her, but he kept his touch very light. He didn't want to overwhelm her. As always, her sweet boyfriend was focusing on her needs by completely ignoring his own. His tender hug did make her cringe for a moment. But when that mild awkwardness melted away, she felt a warmth from head to toe. Gingerly, she returned the gesture, waiting for another twinge of unease to jolt into her chest. But there was no discomfort at all. Instead, Poppy found herself reaching her arms further around Branch's back, tightening her grip, longing for his affectionate touch, missing being this close to the troll she loved so much. His arms shifted slightly, matching her increased grasp. Poppy closed her eyes and sighed, relaxing her chin onto his broad shoulder. The familiar feel of his leafy vest and soothing conifer scent stirring up pleasant memories. Had she really gone a month without hugging him? There they stood for a full minute, content in a casual embrace. Eventually, Poppy withdrew, but was in no rush to get away from him. Branch was staring at her with so much love and delight, even though it was by far the lamest hug she'd ever given him. She stammered under his warm blue gaze, Thank you. You should get going. You have a lot to do. I don't want to keep you."
"You're not keeping me from anything, Poppy. I always have plenty of time for you. I can stay longer."
"No, I don't want you to." Her eyes widened at her own words. I mean, I don't need you to. I mean, thank you, but that was all I needed. That was good enough. More than good enough. That was exactly what I needed. Thank you."
Branch smiled at her fumbled gratitude. "Would you like to try a short walk later, perhaps?"
Her nod was full of certainty. "Yes, I would." Their short walk ended up going around the entire village centre, down a trail, then out to the far east. Being out in the forest still had Poppy on edge after what happened last time, but she wanted to view how the village was progressing with her own eyes, and not just listen from a report from inside her bod. Over the next few days, Branch introduced her to more new sections of the village, careful to avoid the Fun Factory Foundation and areas with sources of water. Most trolls had heard about her incident by the river, but were considerate enough to avoid bringing it up to her. They felt bad for what their queen went through, but didn't understand the severity of flashbacks. So Branch explained it to them.
"Think of when you have a song stuck in your head. No matter what you do, you can't stop hearing it, and sometimes it drives you crazy. Well, a flashback is like that, but 100 times worse, and instead of hearing a mildly annoying tune, you see vivid replays of your deepest, darkest fears."
On the second day, Poppy finally visited the large maple tree just past the old northern border, the new location for the Smiling Taste Buds restaurant. She was greeted by River Ran, who was overjoyed to see her. The pretty blue troll came out running, her green eyes glowing. "Queen Poppy! Oh, it's so good to see you. I can't wait to show you our new design ideas. I think you'll really like them. Come this way. We'll start with the patio area." Poppy was quiet for most of River Ran's enthusiastic tour. At the end, Poppy finally admitted, "Everything looks amazing. I'm sorry I didn't visit sooner. I was having a hard time facing my fears, and finding motivation was even harder." But River Ran assured her, "It's okay, Queen Poppy. You weren't feeling well, and you needed rest. But it's so great to see you doing better now." Poppy shrugged humbly. "Yeah, a bit better, I guess." At that point, River Ran's parents returned with a box of supplies, and paused to say a quick hello. River Ran looked exactly like her mother, dainty features on vibrant sky blue skin and dark blue hair, with her father's bold green eyes and nice teal nose. Poppy was relieved to see that all 3 trolls were glowing, their colours as bright as ever. They had been through something terrible, disheartening, life-changing in the worst way, but had still managed to be cheerful, optimistic, friendly. Later, Branch and Poppy came across a group of trollings outside the elementary school. Priscilla, CJ, Carrie, Tommy, Violet, and 5 others. Purple glitter girl Orchid, bright orange-haired Danny, fluffy-haired Fern, shy slim Zack, and green with blue freckles Buddy. When they spotted their queen, the colourful pint-sized crew came scurrying over, squealing like mice the entire way. But when they noticed Poppy shrinking away from them, they quieted down and slowed their pace. They remembered how Branch had required a more peaceful environment when he was grey, and recognised that Poppy was now going through the same thing. Violet spoke up first, softly. "Hi, Queen Poppy. It's so nice to see you again." Tommy nodded. "We've really missed you." All the other trollings agreed with the sweetest manner, and Poppy's heart swelled. "I've missed you guys too." Carrie, trying to keep her excitement to a minimum, asked, "Did you like the get well card we made you? Did it help you feel better?" Poppy swallowed the guilt rising in her throat. It was one of the many envelopes she tossed aside and hidden in her closet. I haven't opened it yet. I haven't had the chance." Instead of being hurt, Carrie brightened up even more. "That's okay. When you do open it, you'll feel a ton better. I know you will." Poppy forced a smile, hoping that it would be true. CJ noticed a little blue flower near her purple feet, picked it and held it out for Poppy. "We love you, Queen Poppy. You're the sweetest, prettiest, bestest troll ever." The other trollings enthusiastically backed her up, and Poppy had to hold her breath to stop from whimpering. She could feel the tears trying to form and quickly blinked them away. She took the little flower. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, all of you." Priscilla adjusted her big red glasses before asking delicately, "We were about to start a card match game. Would you like to join us, Queen Poppy?" "It'll be nice and calm and quiet, we promise," Orchid offered. Poppy hesitated. "Well, what if I hurt their feelings? What if I get mad at them? What if I have a freak out and scare them?" She took a deep breath. "No, I can't keep thinking that way. I want to play with them. So the only thing that's going to get in my way is my own fear of messing up. If I focus on everything that could go wrong, something definitely will go wrong. That's what I've always lived by. That's what I always told Branch." All 10 trollings clasped their little hands together. "Please!" How could anyone resist such adorable faces? A little smile tugged at the corner of Poppy's mouth. "Okay, one game." The group of trollings pumped their tiny fists in the air and burst out, "Yay!" Their eyes widened at their own impulsive actions, so they promptly lowered their hands and repeated in hushed voices, "Yay!" They invited Branch to join in as well, and one game became 4. After the card match, Poppy also participated in a round of classic marbles, followed by 2 quick hide-and-seek games, one where Poppy was the seeker and another where Branch was. Poppy was not nearly as energetic as normal, but the happy-go-lucky trollings were undeterred. They treated her with the same kindness and admiration as always. Pink or grey, loud or quiet, to them she was still their beloved queen. For the second round of hide-and-seek, Branch found Tommy, then CJ, Orchid, and Danny. Poppy was the 5th. She sat off to the side with the others, while Branch continued to search the area for the remaining kids. She watched her boyfriend with a little smile, admiring his soft enthusiasm and genuine concentration as he checked every nook and cranny. Eventually he found Violet, Fern, Zack, Priscilla, Buddy. But one child was still missing. Carrie. From where Poppy was sitting, she caught a glimpse of the little girl's light fuchsia hair in the middle of a large bush about half a tree length away. Plenty of its auburn leaves were still intact, and Branch had checked around it several times without spotting her. He announced, "Well, it looks like the winner is Carrie." The other 9 trollings cheered. Branch then added, glancing around with his hands on his hips, "Now the question is, where is Carrie?" Priscilla, CJ, Orchid, Fern, Danny and Zack scanned the area too, wondering where the cheerful little girl could be. Poppy checked the bush out of the corner of her eye. The purplish-pink tuft had not moved. So Poppy stared off in the other direction without a word. Tommy, Violet and Buddy were stifling giggles, likely knowing where Carrie was and also choosing not to reveal her crafty hiding place. Branch was genuinely confused as to where Carrie could be. He took another walk around, peering high up into the trees, behind and between rocks, rechecking through and over the bush. When he finally approached the large bush, Carrie burst out of it. Boo! Branch yelped and stumbled backward, causing the rest of the children to laugh hysterically. In the next second there was a giant grin on his face. Ha! Were you in there the whole time? Aha! Carrie squeaked proudly. Wow, that was an excellent hiding spot. Well done! Branch picked her up and spun her around. Carrie's light blue face was full of delight as she let out a giddy scream. Poppy felt a little warmth in her heart as she watched the adorable scene unfold. It reminded her of some previous thoughts regarding her boyfriend and trollings. For a moment, she found herself daydreaming. Her and Branch playing hide-and-seek with two little ones, a boy and a girl. A boy that looked like him, while the girl looked like her, except their colours were switched. All four of them were smiling and laughing, not a care in the world. For that one peaceful minute, Poppy managed to think of something other than the Great Flood. And that 60 seconds was a huge relief. On day 3, Poppy spent most of the day in the village and returned to her pod feeling satisfied, like she'd finally made some slight progress. Firstly, before lunch, she and Branch were chatting with Biggie, Guy and Cooper. Poppy actually contributed a few decent sentences to the conversation, rather than acting like Branch's shadow and muttering the occasional bad-tempered Secondly, when Cooper offered Poppy a strawberry cupcake, she declined politely, with no coldness to her tone. No thank you, Cooper. I don't think my stomach's ready for sugary sweets yet. The long-necked troll shrugged. That's cool. More for me. And he ate the cupcake in one bite. Thirdly, when Guy and Biggie told a hilarious story about a crazy cupcake mishap, Poppy chuckled. Sure, all 4 of her companions were hunched over laughing their heads off, but it was the first spark of real amusement she had experienced since the flood. And then, as Poppy and Branch started to eat lunch at a secluded picnic table, a buzzing sound overhead alerted her. 2 blue firebugs soared by and landed a few tree lengths behind Branch. Poppy paused her eating as their riders hopped off, tied the leashes to a tree, and happily headed off. The Queen suddenly felt a wave of unease. Firebugs, the swollen colossal lake, the discovery of the disastrous dam, the large-scale evacuation, realising the dam burst and 6 trolls were missing, racing to save her boyfriend, the monstrous wall of water. Branch noticed something was off with her. What's wrong, Poppy? He followed her gaze, turning to look over his shoulder. As soon as he spotted the firebugs, he knew the answer. Facing her again, he murmured sympathetically, Would you like to sit somewhere else? He shifted on the bench, ready to stand up, but Poppy shook her head. No. She redirected her gaze down to her plate. No, it's okay. We just got settled, and here is the perfect quiet place. I'm okay. You're sure? Branch confirmed, more than willing to move to a different spot. Poppy nodded. I'm sure. She managed another bite of food to prove her point. But in truth, she was only about 50% sure she would be okay. I can do this. It's just a couple of friendly firebugs. No big deal. Just get a grip. No need to freak out like some harebrain. But it is a big deal to me. I can't keep pretending it isn't, or degrade myself because of it, or get annoyed at myself. That only makes things worse. I need to accept that firebugs cause anxiety in me, but that's that. I can also figure out how to stop it from happening. Poppy risked another glimpse at the winged critters. Every time she looked at them, all she saw were the bad memories. But not everything about firebugs was bad. She had had plenty of good experiences with them too. Using firebugs to add widespread decorations to large festivals, watching the excited annual races with her father and her closest friends, cheering on the contestants as they whizzed around the complex track, teaching the energetic baby bugs tricks, rewarding them with tasty treats, and watching them grow. The thrill of driving a flybug for the first time on her 16th birthday. How stunning the landscape looked from those new incredible heights, sifting her fingers through the cloud and literally touching the sky. The pure freedom of soaring over her colourful forest. And perhaps Poppy's best memory. Attending the Critter Talent Show when she was a little girl, she partnered up with her younger kid she'd never met before, Smidge. The tiny yellow trolley, with her tall and skinny cyan tuft and pink dotted bow twice the size of her head, was standing alone in the middle of the field. She'd asked around, "Hey, wanna be my partner?" But her unusually high-pitched, squeaky voice and aggressive friendliness scared away the other kids. Before Smidge could start crying, Poppy hurried over to comfort the lonely girl and offered to be her partner. In the beginning, Smidge tried to tone down her abnormal behaviour, but Poppy assured her, "You don't have to hide who you are. Just be yourself. I think your intense energy is super fun." The unlikely pair ended up winning the talent show and have been BFFs ever since. Poppy was still staring at the two flyer-bugs behind Branch. The positive memory succeeded in easing her mind. The negative images were still there, and her anxiety didn't vanish into thin air, but it wasn't overwhelming. Branch kept an eye on his girlfriend as she continued to watch the flyer-bugs. Seeing her eat her meal in a relaxed manner, he settled back onto the bench, relieved that she truly was okay. Her plate was already empty as Branch finished his first bite. He reached for his drink, but before the cup touched his lips, movement on the other side of the table made him pause. Poppy had stood up. And she just stood there, staring in the direction of the flyer-bugs with an unreadable expression. Branch set down his cup.
"Poppy, you alright?"
Without looking at him, she nodded distractedly. After a few seconds, she started slowly walking forward, in the direction of the flyer-bugs. Branch stood up but didn't question her and didn't follow her. He simply kept his focus on her, tense from hair to toe as he waited to see what would happen. Poppy moved in slow motion towards the two bugs. Halfway there, her footsteps began to feel heavy, so she replayed the sweet memory of befriending Smidge, the fun of training their flyer-bug together. With a surprisingly strong boost of determination, Poppy kept walking. One bug was dozing, but the other was fully alert. He noticed the greyish-pink queen's gradual approach and chirped happily. Finally, Poppy was standing in front of him, close enough that she could see the shiny name tag on his collar. Gust. She tilted her head up to slightly look into his big purple eyes. As if he could sense her hesitance towards him, Gust didn't try to nuzzle her or even lean forward. He stayed perfectly still, aside from the slight tilting of his head to one side, waiting patiently for her to come to him. Holding her breath, Poppy reached a hand towards his cheek. Her entire arm was trembling, but she didn't retract it. With her heart pounding, her little hand finally touched Gust's soft face. She breathed out a sigh of relief. She was not freaking out. Her hand moved down to scratch his chin. She was not nervous, or nauseous, or antsy. Gust purred, and she felt a little smile grow on her face. She petted the flyer-bug, and she was okay. Poppy could sense Branch watching her. She paused to turn around, and, sure enough, her boyfriend was smiling proudly at her. She ducked her head shyly at the strong admiration in his eyes. It wasn't that big of a step, but it was still a step in the right direction. And that wasn't all. After Branch announced that he needed to check up on the fun factory,
"I promised your dad I would inspect the foundation yesterday, but didn't have the chance, so I'd better do that now. Would you like me to take you back to your pod first?"
But Poppy shook her head. "It's okay. I can go back by myself."
"Are you sure? I have time."
"I'm sure. Really." Branch must have seen the certainty in her eyes.
"Okay. I'll stop by in a few hours then."
His feet felt light as he headed to the fun factory. He was even singing and dancing along the way. His girlfriend's improvement gave him a pleasant boost of energy. He didn't want to get his hopes up too high yet, because she was still far from being back to her old self. But Poppy finally seemed to be rising out of the darkness. Showing determination, facing her fears, controlling her anxiety, the tiniest hint of pink in her features. They were all very promising signs. When Branch arrived at the factory's building site, Larry, Joe and Dusty even commented on his extra good mood. The turquoise troll smiled wider and nodded.
Well, all the village's construction plans are finally complete. Rebuilds are begun, everyone is thriving, and most importantly, Queen Poppy is showing signs of recovery.
Dusty's beige glittery features lit up.
That's great news! I heard she's making more appearances in the village. Branch confirmed. She is. In fact, today she spent more time in the village than in her pod today. She even ate lunch outside. She ate lunch? Larry excitedly repeated. That's even greater news. My wife Tia baked a delicious black forest cake this morning. Do you think Queen Poppy would like some? No, I don't think so. Branch politely declined the green troll's offer. That's very kind of you, Larry. But she's working on increasing her activities gradually, including her diet, so she doesn't get overwhelmed. But I will mention to her, and I'll let you know if she's interested in a piece. Then Joe asked the million-dollar question. Do you think our colours will come back soon? Branch opened his mouth, but no words came out. He hoped so, but they may not. He knew Poppy's colours would come back eventually, but how long was eventually? What would be considered soon? A few hours? A few days? A few months? Weeks sounded most accurate to Branch, but that was still a wide range of time. 2 weeks? 10 weeks? But he couldn't narrow it down any further. It may not take that long, or it may take longer. When Branch stayed silent, Joe lowered his yellow head in shame, his orange hair drooping. I'm sorry, Branch. I shouldn't have asked that question. No, it's okay, Joe. I'm just trying to figure out how to respond to it. I can't give you even a rough estimate because I really don't know. I doubt her colours will return soon, as in this week, but hopefully they will before the end of the year. Any guess could be right, and every guess could be wrong. Dusty nodded respectfully, accepting the vague answer. Then Dusty spoke gently. It's hard for all of us to see our queen so downcast, but I can't even imagine how hard it must be for you. Branch felt a pang of sadness in his heart, and it came out as a small sigh. Yes, it is very hard. As her partner, I want her to be happy, and as someone who's being grey himself, I'd never want another troll to feel that way. Every time I see her, it's a painful reminder of what used to be. Her brilliant smile, her giddy laugh, her friendly attitude, her optimistic energy, her strong confidence. But the pang subsided, and Branch lifted his head confidently. But I keep telling myself that someday Poppy will be that way again. Nobody thought I could ever be happy, including myself. And look at me now. Only one person in this world believed in me, and that was Poppy. That's why, no matter what happens, I can say with 100% certainty that she will regain her colours. Larry's lime green eyes were glistening, and Joe sniffled loudly as he rubbed his blue nose. Dusty's voice shook. Queen Poppy is so lucky to have you. Branch tugged his head, trying to stop his own eyes from watering. I'm even luckier to have her. With the heartfelt conversation coming to an end, the builders got back to work. Branch led the factory's inspection, with the assistance from Larry and a senior builder. They eyed every inch of the foundation and the ground surrounding it. When the 3 trolls finally returned to the starting point, where Dusty, Joe and a few others were waiting, Branch let out a pleased huff and pulled out his clipboard. Every aspect of the foundation passed with flying glittery colours. Now they could finally move on to constructing the wooden frame. Branch took a minute to write down the brief report to show King Peppy. As he put his pen back into his vest pocket, Dusty called out, Good afternoon, Queen Poppy. Surprised, Branch spun around. Sure enough, about a hair stretch away, was Poppy. She was standing shyly, her head lowered with one foot fidgeting, and offered the builders a quick wave.
When her eyes met Branch's, she ran her fingers through her greyish-brown bangs. As he gradually approached her, she even gave him a little smile. "It looks good, Branch. Really good. How long until you can start building?"
"Actually, the inspection is complete, so we can start working on that tomorrow morning."
He stood in front of her, gently taking hold of her pale hands.
"I thought you were heading back to your pod,"
he added, delightfully confused by her presence. She shrugged. "I was, but I changed my mind. I wanted to see how things are going."
"And you're okay?"
He gestured towards the foundation with his head.
"This isn't bothering you?"
She looked over his shoulder at the Fun Factory's construction site, and her little smile didn't falter. "No, actually. It's not this time. I feel fine." Her eyes met his again. "Seeing how thorough you're being, how strong you're building it, reassures me."
Now it was Branch's turn to act bashful. "Thanks, Poppy."
After a few minutes, he perked back up.
"Oh, before I end up forgetting, Tia made some black forest cake, and Larry was wondering if you'd like some."
The all-green troll was standing in earshot, so Poppy addressed him directly. "Thank you, Larry, but no, I'd better not. It does sound tempting, but I think it might be too much for me right now. Maybe next time, though."
Larry continued to smile. "That's okay, Queen Poppy. Tia can make you another one when you're feeling better."
Now that she was seeing the new forest for herself, Poppy's mind and body felt more at ease. It was still difficult to imagine this new land as home, but at least it seemed safe and manageable. It could have been worse. The area could have been a harsh desert, a broiling lava pit, a spiky gorge, or something else that would be completely uninhabitable. It's a colourful forest with food, water, suitable places for their fun activities, unique and interesting landmarks, cute animals, very few predators, poisonous plants, or other hazards. So really, what more could they ask for? Poppy also found her eating habits had improved. Cereals, small sandwiches, a wider variety of fruits and vegetables, fancier salads, and more reasonable portions. She was also able to get some proper rest. She still had a few bad dreams here and there, but they weren't nearly as intense. Last night, when she jolted awake from a nightmare, she was panting and trembling and drenched in a cold sweat, but it wasn't enough to alert Branch. She managed to calm herself down, and before she realized it, she had fallen back to sleep on her own. Poppy was relieved that her father's appearance was returning to normal. The familiar bright magenta and warm autumn colours were finally returning to his features, and he didn't appear so worn out. She had had a couple of bad dreams of him turning grey, searching all over for him, only to discover he'd lost his colours, or outright watching as the colours drained from his features. But those horrible images never became a reality. As she improved, so did he. She still wasn't overly productive, but was doing more than nothing. One evening she added a few components to a half-finished scrapbook page on her craft desk. While the nice poster remained non-sparkly, she had planned it in her head, which glitter to use and the technique to apply it. But Poppy still refused to put on her bracelet or crown. It felt strange to be without her signature hug time watch and flowery headband. But when she tried to put them on one morning, she couldn't touch either one of them. Her hand just hovered over them, like an invisible force was holding her back. She wasn't ready for frequent hugs, and she hadn't yet resumed any of her queenly responsibilities yet. So, for now, the bracelet and crown would remain there where they belonged, on her dresser. At one point, Smidge visited Poppy. While sitting on the sofa, the two girls discussed Poppy's lack of sleep. "I've never been so tired in my whole life, Smidge. I wish I wanted to be more active, but my body is tired, my brain is tired, my emotions are tired. Everything is tired. I want nothing more than to sleep for 8 hours straight, but I can't. And I dread trying to sleep, because if I do manage to fall asleep, I'll end up having all kinds of bad dreams or waking up because of a horrible nightmare."
Smidge looked surprisingly understanding. "I get it, Poppy. Unfortunately, I know what you're talking about. I've had a couple of nightmares myself.
Poppy blinked in surprise. You have? This aggressively optimistic, insanely tough, confident and carefree troll has had nightmares? About what?
About the dam. Smidge took a deep breath before explaining. In one, the dam burst while me and Branch and the other builders were observing it on the flying bugs, and the wall of water hit me like a ton of bricks. In another, I tried to outfly the wall of water, but I didn't make it. And then I had one dream where we managed to repair the dam and make everything as good as new. But then another, even larger dam burst nearby instead, and the same thing. We were all washed away.
She was shivering as she continued.
All 3 times, I heard that eerie booming crack as the ginormous logs gave out. I'd wake up sweating and I couldn't catch my breath. Worse than after a full workout. I could hardly believe it was only a dream. I would have bet my hair what happened was for real.
Poppy's eyes started to water.
Oh, Smidge, I'm so sorry.
Smidge looked taken aback.
You're sorry for me? No, I'm sorry for you. I've only had 3, but you've had to deal with way more than that. I never knew nightmares could be so bad. Now I see why you're so upset and uptight all the time. And why Branch was all those years. Nightmares suck.
Poppy placed her hand on her friend's slender shoulder. Yes, Smidge, they do suck. That's the only way to put it. And it's hard to understand how bad nightmares feel until you experience one for yourself. Did you talk to anyone about them?
I told Milton. Then I told the snack pack. I felt better talking about it, and they felt bad that I went through it. But like you said, none of them could truly sympathize. It's nice to finally talk to someone who does understand it.
Then Smidge looked startled.
I mean, it's not nice that you had nightmares too. It's not nice at all. It's horrible. I wish you didn't have them. But you know what I mean.
Poppy wiped away a stray tear. I do know exactly what you mean. And yes, talking to people about your problems is a relief. But it is a whole different comfort when they've been in your shoes. That's why it's so easy to confide in Branch. Smidge agreed, then looked confused.
Although that expression has never made sense to me. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes. How often do we trolls wear shoes? It should be put yourself in someone else's feet, or leg warmers or something.
Poppy couldn't help but chuckle at her eccentric best friend. Only Smidge could be blunt and silly in the same sentence. Make a comment that was practical, yet pointless. Have a deep heart-to-heart, then disrupt the moment with a quirky remark. And Poppy wouldn't want her to act any other way. Smidge was so shocked to hear a chuckle come out of Poppy that she literally flinched. The tough little troll didn't even know how to react when Poppy reached an arm around her and pulled her into a one-armed side hug. Then it hit her.
Poppy is hugging me!
Last time Smidge tried to hug her, she'd been rejected, and now Poppy was the one instigating it. Holding back tears of joy, Smidge snuggled in, relieved to have a tiny hint of her BFF back. The following day, Poppy accomplished an even greater milestone. Perhaps the greatest one. Branch suggested visiting a secluded section of the forest where she hadn't been yet, beyond the fun factory.
There are plenty of grassy areas for parks, wide trees to hang clusters of pods, and one other thing I think you'll really like, so I'll leave it as a surprise.
However, Poppy didn't seem enthusiastic about any of those. Are there any rivers around there?
Branch spoke very softly. Don't worry, love. There isn't a single drop of water anywhere near there. That's why it would be a perfect area.
Poppy still looked unsettled, but not for the reason he would have thought. She cleared her throat. Okay, well, can we not go there then?
Her boyfriend looked very puzzled. Come again?
The greyish-pink queen explained in a small voice. It's just... I want to go somewhere with a river. I want to try to go near a river. The fact is, I can't avoid something as common as water for the rest of my life. I have to overcome that fear, and I can't if I don't give it a try. Branch's expression softened so much that Poppy thought he was about to burst out crying. But instead, he started forward with his arms open wide. Then he paused, lowered his arms, and took half a step back. Is it alright if I... Sugar, he looked so handsome when he was being considerate. Suddenly longing for his familiar loving touch, Poppy's arms sprang up at her sides. She nodded. Yes, you can hug me. His delighted smile somehow made him even more handsome. He wrapped his arms around her torso. Her arms immediately returned to embrace around his broad shoulders. She closed her eyes. Oh, how much Poppy loved this extraordinary troll. How he made her feel so loved, safe, secure, at ease. What would I ever do without him? The cliché phrase stirred up her insecurities, and her eyes reopened. I was almost without him. I almost lost him. He almost drowned. He was trapped in the great plants. Then he was almost hit by the great flood. What would have happened to me if... Her worrisome thoughts were interrupted by Branch ending the hug. He looked concerned now.
What's wrong, Poppy? I thought you tense up. Did I hug you too long or too tight?
No, there was nothing wrong with that hug. Your hug was perfect. Some negative thoughts popped into my head there for a sec. About losing you.
Branch caressed her pale, freckled cheek as he murmured, I worry about losing you too. I still do, even with my full colours back. Because I love you, and you mean the world to me. But no matter what happens, no matter what obstacles we face, no matter how bleak things get, our love will always be stronger. I will always be there for you, and you will be there for me.
It was Poppy's turn to hold back tears. She hugged him again. A firm squeeze this time, where she heard his oof as she squeezed the wind out of him. When she let go of him, Branch moved to stand beside her and keep one arm around her.
So, about the river.
Right, the river. She almost forgot she'd said that. However, she hadn't changed her mind.
Would you like to start small, with a narrow stream? Such as, how about the one by the elementary school?
Poppy pondered carefully for a second. Then she nodded. Yeah, and if I'm okay with that, then I can try a bigger stream another day. Branch gave her a quick peck on the cheek, causing her heart to flutter.
I'm so proud of you, Poppy. But remember, this is a big step for you. I don't want you to be discouraged if you struggle with it, or if you decide you need more time.
Poppy nodded calmly. I know. Take it slow. Don't judge myself harshly. Tiny progress is still progress. I don't know if I'm sure I'm ready to be near a river, but I am ready to try.
Branch held her close, his bright blue eyes glistening. That's my strong, beautiful Poppy.
Within a few minutes, the pair headed in the direction of the elementary school, holding hands. With every step, Poppy's grip tightened. With every foot they travelled, her anxiety rose. As the school came into view, her heart rate instantly sped up. There was a strip of forest and a small sandy beach beside the school. And beyond that was the stream. Poppy's chest tightened, but she tried to keep her breath steady. As they approached the trees, Branch noticed his girlfriend's pace had slowed significantly. He asked in a compassionate whisper,
Are you still okay to do this? It's perfectly fine if you've changed your mind. Getting this far is still great progress.
No, I haven't changed my mind. Yes, I'm okay to do this. Poppy's voice shook a bit, but her grey-maroon eyes were full of determination.
Would you like me to go first, or would you like to take the lead?
Poppy stared at the orange and brown vegetation in front of her. Knowing the stream was right there on the other side was daunting. even though she couldn't see or hear it yet. "Can we kind of go at the same time?" So, side by side, Poppy and Branch started through the trees and bushes. Her little greyish-pink hand was still grasping his, and she was sticking so close to him that a few times she almost stepped on his foot. Much sooner than she expected, they exited the strip of forest. And there it was, the stream. Only a couple of hair stretches away. Poppy's breath caught in her throat, and she clung to Branch with both hands. Her mind and body froze as a chill went through her from head to toe. Memories of the great flood flashed in her vision. Colossal lake, the massive wall of water rushing toward her, the forest being drowned, creek vanishing, the fun factory falling apart. But she was not going to let her paranoia consume her. A few deep breaths allowed her to tone down the bad images, and she took a minute to relax her trembling body. Then Poppy took one experimental step forward. Okay, no panic rising inside her. So she tried another step. Still okay. Not great, but under control. Branch matched her pace exactly, not influencing her to slow down or speed up. Simply being there for her. Another, slightly bigger step. Branch murmured, "That's it. You're doing great. I'm right here." She acknowledged him with a brief nod. Step. The gentle splashing of water was almost hurting her ears. She gulped. Step. Branch is here. He won't let anything bad happen to me. I won't let anything bad happen to him. We'll protect each other. Step. I can do this. I can be strong. I can overcome my fears. 2 steps. Almost halfway there. I had a bad experience, but it's in the past. It's over, and now I need to focus on the present and the future. Her next step faltered. It may be in the past, but it's still in my memories. It's still right here in my current thoughts. It's still affecting my present, and will affect my future. She paused for a few seconds. I went through something traumatic, and it scarred me deep down. I can't erase it, but I can learn to cope with it. Another step, less hesitant this time. I'm not going to lie and say that walking towards this stream is easy peasy, or even not too hard. It's super hard. One of the hardest things I've ever done. But that doesn't mean I can't do it. It's difficult, but not impossible. Those horrible memories were still threatening to overpower her senses. So she took a moment to focus on Branch, his broad green fingers linked with hers, his familiar, soft, earthy scent surrounding her, his beautiful sky blue eyes watching her so carefully. 3 increasingly gradual steps. Then Poppy paused. They were still 6 or 7 steps away from the stream's edge, but she didn't want to push too far and have another panic attack. I'm already feeling very antsy, so let's just see how this goes. If it's too much, we can leave and come back another day. With Branch by her side, his arms holding her for silent comfort, Poppy stood in that spot in the sand for a solid 2 minutes, not taking her eyes off the water. The moving water. The water that looked so innocent, but could cause so much damage and chaos. That pesky voice inside her head tried to fill her head with doubt. What if the water suddenly rises? What if it floods this part of the village? What if Branch and I can't escape it this time? No! Poppy closed her eyes for a minute. This is perfectly safe. Just because one river flooded doesn't mean every other river will too. Branch has inspected all water sources in the forest, so even if they get higher in the spring, they won't cause any serious damage to the village. Slowly, she peeked one eye open, almost dreading to take a second look at the stream. But it looked no different. Same width, same speed, tranquil and harmless. Poppy opened the other eye as she observed the gentle current. Down towards the right, the water flowed peacefully under a colourful bridge. Upstream to the left, there was a shiny stone jutting out of the middle of the stream, creating a cute little swirl of water. It was almost soothing. Almost. Sort of. More accurately, it was nerve-wracking and relaxing at the same time, which, funny enough, made perfect sense to Poppy. Poppy's storm of emotions over the last month had been incredibly confusing and sometimes downright ridiculous. But she was finally starting to figure them out. Still, watching the water, Poppy rested her head on Branch's shoulder. In a little voice that held a sliver of her familiar pep, she asked him, "Would you sing something for me?" Branch snuggled his cheek into her hair.
"Sure. Which song?"
"I don't care. You pick." He was silent for a few seconds as he pondered over an appropriate song. Then, in that angelic voice she loved so much, he sang to her,
"When the sun had left and the winter came, and the skyfall could only bring the rain, I sat in darkness, all broken-hearted."
Memories stirred in Poppy's mind. Her coronation, when Branch danced with her, then sang for the first time in 20 years. Sang just for her.
"I couldn't find a day, I didn't feel alone. I never meant to cry, started losing hope, but somehow, baby, you broke through and saved me."
Oh, how incredible it had been to witness him sing that day, knowing how much he'd been through, and seeing how far he'd come. Day one of their casual hangouts versus the day he regained his long-forgotten colours. It was beyond compare.
"You're an angel, tell me you're never leaving, 'cause you're the first thing I know I can't believe in."
This 1 in a million troll was her boyfriend. Her caring, loyal, kind, understanding, gentle, patient, brilliant, talented, hard-working, handsome, amazing boyfriend. She sighed as she snuggled in closer. How did I ever get so lucky? 2 days later, Branch was busy talking to Dennis and Maddie in the hairstylist's new front yard, so Poppy decided to take a solo stroll down a nearby trail. The fallen leaves crinkled under her feet with every step. The light chill in the air mixing with the mild warmth of the sun was rather refreshing. She wasn't dancing or skipping or even humming, but she was content, her steps light and her head held high. Being on her own outside the confines of her pod, Poppy's thoughts had a chance to wander in a better direction. Over the past few nights, she only had one nightmare. It was about her standing by a small pond, then in a split second the water rose drastically and she was washed away. However, the terror was not as bad as usual. Her recovery was much quicker, and she had a relatively restful sleep afterwards. As Poppy headed further down to the secluded trail, she heard the telltale constant splashing of a river to her right. She paused for a few seconds to collect herself, then continued her walk. A minute later, the river came into view through the bushes, parallel to the trail and a good hair-stretch wide. Instinctively, her mind shifted once again to the great flood. But after pausing for another few seconds, she managed to get her anxiety under control. She forced her mind to go to a different, brighter place. Her journey to befriend Branch, their first hug, their first kisses, their sweet picnic date, their first dance. Poppy felt herself relaxing again. Even when Branch was nowhere near her, he was able to comfort her. She started to think about how much he had done for her this past month. But her memories were interrupted by a shrill noise up ahead. Poppy's ears instantly perked up, and a second later she heard it again. The distant cry of an animal in distress. She hurried towards the sound, following the flat, sandy path, until she reached the sharp left curve on the trail. but she continued straight, shoving her way through the thick bushes. Once she finally broke through, she gasped. There, in front of her, only 3 or 4 troll lengths away, was the river. In the centre of the wide strip of water was a pile of debris caught on a rock. And trapped in that debris was a young swampkin. The little ball of soggy grey fluff spotted Poppy and let out a frightened meow. The Queen's heart started to pound. "Oh no, he needs help! I have to do something!" Trying to keep her breathing steady, Poppy stretched out her grey-brown ponytail over the river, keeping as much distance between her and the water as possible, and toward the swampkin. She tried several times to pull him free, but it was no use. "He's too tangled in the vines. I don't know the extent of his injuries, so if I yank on him too hard, I could hurt him even more." The tips of her hair released his round body and shifted over to the chunks of debris. But after a dozen failed attempts at poking and pulling, fumbling, straining her hair, Poppy retracted her ponytail with a growl of annoyance. "This isn't working! It's super tangled and I can't see what I'm doing from way over here." Her heart dropped to her stomach. I need to get closer." She gulped as a jolt of nausea hit her deep in her gut. There were no overhanging tree limbs she could dangle from, no object she could use to create a makeshift bridge. The only way she could get close enough to help the swampkin was to go right into the water. Looking at a pond from afar, standing near a stream, was Branch holding her hand. Fine. But waltzing right into the middle of a flowing river all on her own? Poppy shivered and her chest tightened. "I don't know if I can do this." The river was faster and 3 times wider than the stream by the elementary school. As she watched this one, she swore it was getting wider and deeper and faster by the second. She knew that it was only her paranoia playing tricks on her, but it was so difficult to ignore. Poppy tried to refocus on the real problem and study what the actual appearance of the river. It may seem wide, but it was quite shallow. The deepest part, which was around the swampkin, looked like it would reach up to her belly, and the water was relatively slow and smooth. It didn't seem that bad, but it was still a river. Poppy tried shouting out into the forest. "Hello? Is anyone out there? I need help over here!" She was met with heavy silence, not so much as a mouse's squeak. No one was anywhere near the area. Poppy whipped her head around as the swampkin let out more of a frantic meow. The debris had shifted, forcing the trapped creature's face closer to the water. "By the time I fetch someone to help, it'll be too late. He'll drown." The little creature's light grey eyes stared into her soul, wide with desperation, silently pleading for help, afraid for his life, about to be washed away, never to be seen again. Poppy bolted toward the river, but skidded to a stop at the river's edge, her toes only inches from the water. She panted heavily, her muscles tense and screaming at her to flee. An intense fear was radiating through every cell of her body. But her determination was stronger. As her eyes locked on the swampkins again, the pale pink queen stood up straighter, her face scrunched with resolve. "I can do this. He needs help. He needs me. I can do this." Sucking in a breath so deeply it almost hurt her chest, Poppy raised one foot. Okay. I'm on the edge of the river. I'm about to step into a river. I'm walking into a river. No. Different perspective. I'm rescuing an animal. A swampkin is trapped, and I'm the only one who can free him. I can't abandon him. I won't abandon him. Without giving herself a second to overthink it, Poppy stomped her foot down into the shallow water. She gasped at this chilly splash, her heart thumping almost painfully in her chest. "I've got this." She took another step forward, both feet now in the water. "I can do this." Every step put her closer to the swampkin, and further away from the security of the grassy ground. "Everything will be fine. This is perfectly safe." Every step was slow and heavy, but she was making progress. The water was above her ankles. Poppy still wanted to escape from this highly uncomfortable situation. Her legs were itching to leap back onto the grass and sprint into the forest. But she pushed past it and continued through the water, which was now sloshing around her knees. She could feel a scream rising in her throat, so she clamped her jaws shut, her heart pounding in her throat, making her want to pass out, but she concentrated on standing upright and moving forward. I already had someone drown right in front of my eyes. I'm not going to let that happen again. I couldn't save Creek, but I can save this swampkin. Poppy picked up her pace. The water was up to her belly already. Okay, so it was a bit deeper than she originally guessed. Up to my chest will now be underwater. But what alarmed her more was how the water was starting to splash into the swampkin's face. Only a few more steps. Suddenly the debris jerked again, and before Poppy could blink, the round grey animal disappeared under the water. No! She lunged forward and grabbed the debris pile. She tried to pull it up to the surface, but it was stuck. Cold panic rushed through her veins. Come on, please! She shifted her grip and gave it her arms, hair, upper body. She was finally able to maneuver the debris out of the water. At last, the little swampkin reappeared, completely drenched and sputtering, but alive. With her hair holding the unstable debris in place, Poppy used her hands to quickly but carefully release the vines that trapped the poor creature. When he was finally free, she held the shivering swampkin close as he let out muffled meows of relief. It's okay, little guy. Her vision became blurry as tears welled up. She did it. She saved him. She conquered her fears and saved a creature from drowning. You're okay. I've got you. You're going to be fine. Her legs felt like they weighed more than a Bergen as she headed out of the river and back to the grass. Exhaustion hit Poppy like a counterbus. But she couldn't rest yet. The swampkin needed medical attention. She did take a moment to kneel on the ground and catch her breath. Meanwhile, she used the end of her hair to dry the excess water off her and the swampkin, wrung out her hair, then continued walking. Poppy had started shivering a bit too, so she wrapped her hair around herself and the swampkin in her arms. She hurried down the trail, anxious about his condition. He had survived the worst of the part of the ordeal, but he could still be in danger. Branch was chatting happily with Dennis, Maddie and Smidge. The fourth troll had joined them a few minutes ago when they relocated their hangout to Maddie's backyard. The tough little troll was about to make a clever remark to Dennis's quirky joke, but a frantic voice in the distance silenced her and alerted all four trolls. Did you hear that? Maddie asked the group, looking wide-eyed at the sound. Branch's ears perked up. It almost sounded like Poppy. Dennis raised one blonde eyebrow and asked quietly, What was that? They heard the desperate cry again, louder and clearer. Branch! Branch, where are you? Branch's heart dropped. It was Poppy! Over here! He shouted as he sprinted around the half-built salon toward the front yard, his three companions right behind him. Branch's gut ached with dread at how distressed Poppy sounded. Was she hurt? Was she having another panic attack? Was she distressed because she couldn't find him and was afraid something bad had happened to him? When Branch reached the front of the bakery, he skidded to a halt. There was Poppy, looking very anxious, with her hair wrapped around her upper body. Poppy! He sprang over to her. What's wrong? Are you okay? I'm okay, she panted, but this little guy isn't. She opened her hair cloak to reveal a damp and frightened swampkin in her arms. We need to get him to Milton's right away. Smidge nodded, her expression hardening. I'll run ahead and alert him. The feisty yellow troll took off like lightning, with Branch and Poppy following along, slower than Smidge, but still in a hurry. It was then Branch noticed something else about Poppy's appearance. Your dress! It's soaked! What happened? I found the swampkin trapped in some debris, in the middle of the river along the trail. I couldn't reach him with my hair, so I had to go in. Branch was so stunned he almost stopped walking. Are you saying you went right into a river? The astonishment in his voice made Poppy look away shyly. Well, yeah. He needed my help. And how do you feel? Pretty good. Well, not good, but I feel okay. I mean, it was flipping terrifying, but I didn't panic at any point. I'm kind of relieved that I kept my fear under control. And I also feel better because I was able to save him. After a month of doing nothing except regretting her past actions, she finally did something meaningful. Branch kissed her cheek, understanding how significant this rescue was for her. Then he put both his arms around her as they continued their urgent pace.
Let's get you two warmed up.
Thanks to Smidge, Milton was already waiting for them with a fully prepared examination table. Branch helped Milton get the swampkin settled while Poppy explained. He was stuck in a pile of debris in the river. His head went underwater for at least 10 seconds. I didn't notice any injuries, but he was really shivering and whimpering the whole way here. While waiting for the veterinarian to properly bundle him up and run some tests, Poppy got dried off in the other room. Charlotte let the Queen borrow one of her frilly dark green dresses. Branch also took off his leafy jacket to give to her, although Poppy tried to resist. But I don't want you to get cold. Branch rolled his eyes in the most warm-hearted manner.
I am fine, Poppy. You were in the water in the middle of autumn.
But...
No buts. He forced one of her arms into a sleeve. The last thing you need to get is a chill.
Finally, Poppy admitted defeat with a little sigh and let him put the oversized jacket on her. Instantly, she felt warmer. Her boyfriend's lingering body heat and the thickness of his signature earthy clothing was like receiving a constant hug from him. It relaxed her, made her feel safe. Sure, she still felt guilty that she was wearing 2 layers while Branch's upper body was completely bare, but she knew that if she ended up getting sick, it would affect him more than her. So she stood right beside him with her arms snugly around him. He probably believed she was trying to warm herself up, but in reality she was making sure he didn't get cold. Soon Milton confirmed that the swampkin only had minor injuries. He was in shock and his body temperature was a bit low, but with the right medicine and fuzzy blankets, both were easy to cure. Once the veterinarian settled the animal into a cozy cage, he stood up and turned to Branch and Poppy.
We'll let him rest for the rest of the day, and then see how he's doing in the morning. You did a very good thing, Poppy. Well done.
A little warmth rose in her chest. I did do a good thing. Because of my actions, this little swampkin is alive. I made the right choice.
Branch put a hand on Poppy's shoulder. You should head over to see the doctors now. According to my observations, you appear to be fine, but I'd like a second opinion to be sure.
As Branch and Poppy headed towards the door, the swampkin let out a little sad meow, causing them both to turn around. He was getting sleepy from the meds, but he was alert enough to notice that his rescuer was leaving, and judging by his light green eyes boring into her, he did not want her to go. Poppy's heart twisted. Don't worry, buddy. I'll come back really soon. I promise. The little swampkin let out a happy little meow before snuggling further into his blankets and letting his eyes flutter shut. At the hospital, Dr. Plimsy confirmed Branch's diagnosis. Poppy was unharmed.
To be safe, you should take it easy the rest of the day, Queen Poppy.
The chartreuse-haired, purple-skinned young doctor advised.
Make sure you stay warm. Try some tea or hot chocolate. Then get some rest.
Rest. That's all Poppy had been doing lately. Yet this time, when she was told to rest, it didn't discourage or annoy her. She had had a stressful day, and resting was necessary for her health. She wasn't being lazy, she was being sensible. As the young couple headed out of the hospital, Poppy asked Branch, Is it okay if we stop into Charlotte's pod? I promised the swampkin I'd come back, and I really want to check up on him.
Of course, Poppy. But after that, rest.
To Branch's surprise, she gave him a little kiss on the cheek. Don't worry, I will. I promise. Back at Milton's makeshift critter hospital, the swampkin was fast asleep. He looked very peaceful, but Poppy asked anyway, Is he doing okay?
I just checked his vitals, and he's already showing improvement. Hopefully he won't have to stay too long. How are you doing?
I'm all good. I'll be heading home for a warm beverage and a nap under some heated blankets. Poppy eyed the label on the swampkin's cage. All the information was filled in, except for one obvious blank spot right at the top. Did you not choose a name yet? That was unusual. The compassionate veterinarian usually came up with a name before the animal was even settled into its cage. Milton shook his head, his deep green eyes glowing.
I thought it would be more appropriate if you name him. After all, you're the one who saved his life.
Poppy's heart swelled as Milton handed her the marker. The grey-pink queen pondered for a moment. then scampered forward and wrote on the blank line, "Brave." He braved the river, and so did I. We were both scared at first, but we were able to help each other in ways no one else could. That night, Branch settled into an empty bed, respectfully keeping to one side as he had done for the rest of the month. Of course, he missed cuddling with his girlfriend, falling asleep and waking up in each other's arms, sharing multiple goodnight kisses before drifting off. But if Poppy wasn't comfortable with it, then he didn't want it to happen. The enjoyment should never be one-sided. Branch wasn't disappointed or offended by Poppy's lack of affection toward him. He was happy to give her all the space she needed for as long as she needed it. A few minutes later, a sleepy Poppy joined him. She yawned, pulled back the blanket on her side, hopped onto the mattress, and Branch was completely caught off guard when she scooted toward him and snuggled right into his side. He was rendered frozen, like the very first time she'd slept by his side on the night of the cyan stars. Once she got comfortable, with her arm draped over his waist, she let out another yawn, mumbled, "Love you, Branch," then instantly dozed off. He was still staring down at her with his mouth gaping. Despite the darkness of the room, he could see her form quite clearly. She was still not glowing, but she was no longer a pale shadow. And she was snuggling with him. With a fond sigh that was a partial whimper, Branch lightly kissed Poppy's forehead as he let his arm settle around her.
"I love you too, Angel."
End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I really like that one. God, she is needing this. And the little steps she's taking to make sure she's okay. Branch being by her side the whole time. And her saving little Brave. She needed that. She really did. One thing I love about this fic is that it's accurate to how mental health struggles are, as far as my knowledge goes. I don't have depression, but I do struggle with anxiety, as I've mentioned multiple times. And what they're doing, small little nudges forward, and then backtracking when they're not comfortable anymore, so that they can keep testing the waters. It's very, very good. And her increasing her appetite when her anxiety is getting better. Been there, done that. I've been eating a lot more today, and I'm very happy about it. I even ate a cupcake yesterday, and I didn't have a freak out. Yee! I'm happy, and I'm planning on having another one quite soon. Yeah, it's got a rose-shaped bit of frosting on it, so I'm looking forward to trying that. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.